Okay, so this talk, the next hour and a half, hour 15, is about revolutionising fear. Okay, now just before I go into what talk's going to be about, let me touch upon the theme for the camp as a whole. The theme for the camp is about revolution. Now, most of us are thinking, well, they picked that because it's 1984, 30 years, revolution was part of that. It absolutely does. But the revolution in Sikhi isn't just one event. It isn't just one group of people. The revolution in Sikhi started with Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. And depending on the order of your talks, you'll have already learned about some of the different revolutionary parts of Sikhi, about how Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj's mission and message was revolutionary, how the Guru's sacrifices were revolutionary, how Amrit itself is revolutionary, how Naam is revolutionary. And now what we're going to talk about here is one of the key components in revolution. So revolution is about change, about delivering change. Okay? So if a world revolves, it changes it, it goes upside down. But if we have a country where there's oppression, tyranny, and people decide to revolt, people decide to undertake a revolution, what they want to do is change the way the country is run. Okay? So there's change. Now, the one thing that you can't have in a revolution is fear. If there's fear, then the revolution is going to struggle. It's going to fall apart. It's going to potentially fail. You have to have full faith and belief and be fearless in order to be successful at a revolution. But you've got to have that faith that you can be victorious. Otherwise, halfway through, you might give up. Okay, so to change something, you have to be fearless. Now, the revolution, as you guys have already learned in the last couple of days, isn't just a worldly one. It isn't just about changing governments and you know, the rulers of states. It's about the personal, spiritual one that we have as well. The purpose of us, the purpose of our life that seeks to merge with God, become one with God. Is anybody there? Anybody clocked it? You've done that. What's next? So we're also trying. Okay. Are we going to do it? We just do what we do today. Is anybody happy with what they do today is going to make them meet God? No. So what happens? What do we need to do? What's the word that we see? Change. So we need to change. We need to really have a spiritual revolution, each of us individually. So we need to change something. But to change something, what's the one thing we've got to try and eliminate? Yeah. Because if we're afraid of change, it ain't going to happen. Have you heard people doing that kind of thing, saying that kind of thing? You know, people who don't like change. I don't like everything change. Because they're scared, because they don't know how to handle it. They're outside their comfort zone. But to do change, to deliver change, to effect change, you've got to try and become fearless. That's the idea of this talk, to give you guys a tool, to give all of us a tool. We want to see what Marge has given us as a tool so we can deliver change, and with that we can change. Now, no words in that slide. That's not because I've got to put them on. The reason there's no words in that slide is because I don't need to tell any one of you what fear is. I fully believe every single one of us in this room, at some point in our lives, have experienced fear. Some of us will have felt experience today. Some of us might even be experiencing fear right now as we're sitting here. So I don't need to tell you what fear is. You already know what it is. Now sometimes when we go to talks and presentations and conferences and events, the stuff being talked about, I'm thinking that doesn't apply to me, that's not relevant to me, I don't really care about that. And we switch off, we doze off. But because fear is real to every single one of us, because we all feel this emotion, it's relevant. No matter where we are in our path of Sikhi, fear is there somewhere for most of us. Does anybody like being afraid? Is it a comfortable, is it a nice experience? Fear. So your hands up. So everyone, it's not comfortable, is it?
It's embarrassing sometimes.
It's embarrassing sometimes. Okay, let me tell you some definitions that come out of the dictionary. So you guys have done a good job. You actually captured most of this already. So these are 4 definitions from the Oxford Dictionary. That a fear, or fear is, an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. A feeling of anxiety concerning the outcome of something, or the safety of someone, or the likelihood of something unwelcome happening, or a mixed feeling of dread and reverence. Now I think you guys pretty much got all of that. The one word, which no group managed to capture in the definition, and if I'm honest, if I were doing this in your place, I'd probably miss it as well. There's one word here, reverence. But all the rest of it, miss out reverence, we'll come back to reverence later on. Well done. Now, you've given me 4 definitions of fear, and I've given you another 4 there, and there is some crossover, right? But fear surely means one thing. We've got 8 definitions. So what does that tell you about fear?
But there's lots of types of like ways that fear is like represented.
Yeah, excellent. Anyone want to build on that? Yeah. Personal. Yeah? So when we talk about fear, we understand it as something different because it's each individual has his own individual understanding, experience, relationship with fear. Okay, so we kind of broadly know what it is. When I say the word fear, what comes in your mind are the things that you're afraid of. Okay? So fear is something that hits us or we react to on an individual basis. So what I want you to do now is give me your fears, yeah, and your whys that you want in terms of what you've got as a list, in terms of what you're afraid of, why you're afraid of it, and what's the word that is.
You said personal suffocation, okay? So then you said like suffocation, you want that feeling of being trapped, not being able to move, and the worst part that happens is you're obviously you won't be able to breathe or you have a panic attack or something. And another one was the death, because there's unknown feelings which no one really describes it, because anyone describes it, because it's not strange. And people have even accepted that they might feel they're unprepared for that. You don't know when you can die. And obviously the worst thing that can happen is you probably die. Therefore, another one is ghosts. So people don't know what ghosts are, they've never seen it, they've just heard stuff about it. And then they think you can get possessed with the worst thing. And we also do arachnophobia, because they might poison us.
Everybody know what arachnophobia is? Know what arachnophobia is?
Fear of fire.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move to the bullet. Have you guys got it?
Yeah, we've got a list. Somebody said expectations because they're scared of being judged and letting people down. Animals, because I'm scared of dogs because they might bite. They've got no control. Black magic because you don't want to tempt fate. And then somebody said they're scared of Maharaj because of respect and they don't want to accidentally disrespect him.
Okay. Perfect. Are you getting more fears? Is that some of your fears? Did you got some other fears? You read them out? More generally?
Heights, death, tempting fate, animals, people, dark, superstitions, ghosts, clowns, old people.
You're going to end up like that.
Well, there you go. Perfect then. Next, you guys.
Some people are scared of the dark because they don't know what's expected, so it's like unknown, you don't know what's going to happen next. Yeah.
You got more fears? Give me some other fears that you guys got.
Some people are scared of snakes. They're afraid of getting injured or poisoned or whatever, but they're like a death at the end of it.
Okay.
And some people are afraid of their families getting hurt. Say if their parents are in a fight or something, they'll be scared because they care of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, you guys?
Animals, fear of failing exams, fear of sound, heights, change, fear of the future, fear of disappointing parents, losing parents, and fear of control.
Fantastic. Okay, and give me a why and a what as well. Give me one example of a why and a why. Did you guys get around to that? Okay.
Fear of control because of the control that I have. Like you wouldn't think that the five eyes could control you so much. Fear of animals because it's scary.
It's scary. What's the worst that an animal could do to you? It chase you. Very good. Excellent. There you go. Fantastic. So we've got a list of fears there. Some interesting ones. But again, something that might terrify us might make the person next to us laugh. And what might look like a walk in the park to someone else might be the end of the world for us. Again, because fear affects each of us individually. Okay? And we've gone through the whys, we've gone through the whys. So we'll come back to that in a second. Now let me show you a list of fears. Okay, this is a top 10 list. So, top 10 fear. What can we fear? We've got terrorist attacks, spiders, death, being a failure, war, criminal gang anybody guess which country this came from?
Russia,
America.
Pakistan,
America.
China.
Okay. So let's have a vote. Who thinks we had 3 different countries there? We had Russia. Hands up if you think it's Russia. Okay. Hands up if you think it's China. Hands up if you think it's America. Okay. Right then. So if you think it's America, why do you think this list has come from America? Yeah.
Terrorist attacks.
There's that. Okay. Same. Any other reason why you think it's come from America?
All of this is probably going to happen in America.
All of this happened in America.
There's a lot of criminal gang activity.
It's just criminal gang activity in America.
There's lots of wars and between the Koreans and America about nuclear stuff as well.
Nuclear stuff. Here's the arguments going on. Okay, cool. Right. So you guys look into this. Where does this list fall with activity? Okay. Don't get to the top 10 list. Right. Terrorist attacks. Who thinks America suffers more terrorist attacks than anybody else? Do you think any of the countries have more terrorist attacks than America?
Iraq.
Iraq
Pakistan?
and bombing their own countries as well.
Pakistan has more terrorist attacks. Pakistan has more terrorist attacks. As well as Pakistan and Iraq, the worst place in the world. Pakistan and Iraq, the worst place in the world for terrorist attacks. Right? America has had terrorist attacks. Has it got as much to fear from terrorist attacks than it does from school shootings? You need the kids that are going to schools. Right? And they're literally shooting up teachers in schools, yeah? You hear that happening every 6 months, every 5 months, right? So yeah, terrorist attacks are there. You know, what does that tell you? You guys look at this list. You kind of go, that's America. And we know it's America because terrorist attacks are up there, gang violence are up there. So what does that tell you about this?
The mostly unheard of.
What's it available in terms of it happens, but yeah, okay, go on.
They're not common enough to be something that happens for instance Korea and their wars of between things like.
So it's not something that happens every day, but people still scared of this stuff. Okay, yeah.
Is it largely influenced by the media and social?
Okay, come on, let's work on this a little bit more now. So you said it's largely influenced by the media. Okay, someone talk to me more about that. What does that mean?
What was that?
Like the news and stuff, what they show on the news, they're more likely to show terrorist attacks and stuff like that, rather than small-time criminal activity.
Okay, and what does that? So if the news are telling you about terrorist attacks, what does that mean? What are we doing with that information?
The news they think of big things because then they get more politics involved as well.
So more
politics as well.
Politics, yeah.
And more.
We're only on the news what to do to us. Stereotyping.
We
pass it around. Perfect. What you guys just talked about now, right, is education, politics, media. Okay. So we've just said terrorist attacks. What's happened in America happened just very much about everywhere else in the world as well. And the extra number of people impacted by terrorist attacks in America, arguably, you could say, isn't that great in terms of personal loss, as in my own family and myself. Yeah, it's the biggest here in America, why? Because it's played out in the media, it's played out across the papers. It's the big thing that we talk about. So what we talk about is, we've just said fears are individual. Yeah, that fear means something to all of us. Now we have a collective. Because if we talk about fear, if I talk about what I'm afraid of, and I talk about it loudly enough and for long enough, other people are going to start getting scared of the same thing. So if I stood here now and I started talking about spiders and I went on and on about spiders, about how horrible spiders are, there'll be people in the room now that start going, oh, actually, I don't like spiders either. Right? If you start talking about something for long enough, you influence a group of people, and fear goes beyond the individual and actually becomes something that happens to the whole group. And groups can experience fear or fear, even though they aren't themselves directly impacted by what have experienced it. Yeah? So, terrorist attacks. A lot of people really haven't experienced that. Right? We talk about criminal gang activity. There's parts of America that got big problems with that, right? But not everybody. But everybody, it's still one of the top 10. And again, back to the media, because it's a good part of the culture. Yeah? Media has a big part to play in it. Culture has a big part to play in what we're afraid of. Because sometimes we're being taught this is scary, and this is a big problem, therefore we get afraid of it.
It's mostly films, TV, music, everything that we're influenced by. There's a lot of they put a lot of things in there to try to scare us.
Absolutely, because it sells as well, doesn't it? It sells because if you can sell an issue, you can sell a fear, and you can politics based on it, you can sell cinema tickets, etc., etc.
And most of the fears, like, they lead to like discrimination between others.
They do. Because if you can make one group fearful of another group, again, you can see stuff off the back of that. So yeah, people use the politics. What we're talking about now, though, we're talking about fear coming away from an individual and to us as a group. So can you educate, can you teach people about fear? Absolutely. You know, instead of kids, right? You've got kids, right? Sometimes we say things to kids, don't we? Don't do that because it's wrong or it's scary. And we scare kids, don't we? The kid doesn't know any better. We tell him or her what to be afraid of. So fear can be taught. And not just the kids, fear can be taught to adults. That's it. If we have to make someone so seem like a horrible, nasty person, you'll be afraid of them. Not because you felt anything, not because you know that person, just because I'm telling you. And if enough of us are afraid of one thing, the rest of us will feel afraid of it. Also, fear can be passed on. That plague can spread very quickly. So fear is individualistic, but it also affects us as a group. Now, you can look at some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is quite interesting, isn't it? Right? Being a failure, that came up as well, didn't it? So the groups. Okay. Now, each of the groups that I've had so far, there's been some common themes that people are kind of, afraid of. Society was one that a lot of people mentioned. Being a failure was a big one that a lot of people have mentioned. But why being a failure is such a big fear for both the Americans and also for our own guys of the camp? Why are we so afraid of being a failure? What is it about it?
It affects development.
Affects development. Why are we afraid about it? That's the impact in terms of that's what happens down the line. But why are we afraid of it?
Because you don't fit in with society.
You don't fit, so society might look at you differently if you fail. Okay. So what kind of thing might you fail at for society to look at you funny? Image, so go on. So, and you can see that as a failure. So if you fail to look a certain way, people will judge you. Personal image, yeah? So there's an expectation, what you're saying, yeah? So there's an expectation for us to look a certain way, and if we fail to look that way, then society will judge us. I think that happens quite a lot. Would you agree? Yeah? Okay. Give me another fear of failing. What's the kind of failure that people are afraid of? Everybody ever been afraid of failing an exam?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Anybody ever failed an exam? Everybody, come on. Right. What was your fear? To be honest, what were you actually afraid of? Parents and the results. What's going to happen with your parents? Not the other. She's going on. Right? The friends are not the. Okay. There's a fear there for disappointing your parents. You fail your exams. Okay. But what other kind of failures? What other kind of failures are there in life?
Not getting the career you wanted.
Again, and is it again because of your parents, or is it something else?
It can be the appearance. It can be like the way you like stand out from others.
So it's yourself as well. Okay, so if I fail at something, but the way I stand out, the way other people see me, perhaps the way I see myself, is also fearful. Because if I like to see myself as an intelligent person, if I fail at something, suddenly my self-belief goes down, doesn't it? If I've never failed an exam in my life, I might be really scared of doing it, because the day I fail, I'm not perfect anymore. So sometimes we have this fear of failing ourselves. Okay. Now, parents have expectations. Agree? Yeah? Right. Do you think it's fair that parents expect us to live a certain way, or to be a certain way, or to achieve certain things in life? Because if they have expectations, then we have the potential to fail them. Yeah? Is it fair that parents expect things of us as kids? Okay. Well, someone tell me yes or no, and give me a reason why. Okay, why is it fair to parents have expectations? Okay, so they were expected to do stuff, and now it's right for them to expect us to do stuff. And therefore it's okay to feel afraid of failure. Okay. So that's, everyone agree that? Everyone agree that it's fair for parents to have expectations of the kids? Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. We'll you guys this. So our parents, let me say, tell me if this sounds like your parents. Right? They're not bothered after one over. Hands up with your parents. There are some doctor, accountant, solicitor, lawyer, engineer. Very good. How many doctors in the room? Right? So all of our parents, any accountants, any solicitors, lawyers? Right? We've got a couple. Okay. So all of our parents want us to be doctors. That's the expectation. Well, we're probably not going to be doctors. So shouldn't we be afraid of failing? Is that fair? Is it right to feel afraid of failing a parent?
I think it's just obviously a different thing because you're going to get the money out of it and stuff, and that's what they want. But then they're older, they'll kind of
And also our fear of failure, again, might only be relevant to people.
Yeah, and then you'll probably feel scared about how they're going to react, then you get to the point where
Yeah.
mind and you can't do anything.
So faith can come and go. Yeah, faith and that's excellent, okay.
Temporary.
And temporary is temporary, perfectly done.
Yeah, so if you're afraid of something, maybe it'll help you progress. So like, say exams, you'll actually revise because you're scared of failing. So it's a good way in sense.
It's a motivating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a motivation. Okay, perfect. Right now, you know what? One day, hopefully, when us guys get a bit older, we all have kids of our own. Are we going to expect our kids to be good kids, study hard, and would we want our kids to have good futures and good careers?
Yeah.
Okay. If they didn't do what we wanted them to do, would we think they'd failed us? And you don't have to answer this question. Don't say it out. Just ask yourself. If you've given your kids everything that they deserved, they needed, they had the chances to develop and grow into amazing people, right? And if they didn't use that opportunity and they did something else, would you think my kids failed? You don't have to answer it, just ask yourself that question. Don't put your hands up, don't. Just ask yourself the question. Because the truth of it is, a lot of people deep down will say, yeah, I gave him everything, he still messed it up. And there's disappointment there. And if the kid picks up on that, then there's an issue. Because the kid thinks, my parents might be disappointed in me. My parents are going to think I failed them. It's a scary thing, but it happens all over the place in a lot of families. And it's not healthy, is it? Because often, because we don't understand it still, we don't understand our parents don't understand our kids. But the failure thing is a big thing. How about Sikh? You know, people who would love to learn more about Sikh because they go, yeah, you know what, I'd love to keep my kids. I'd love to give up drinking. I know I won't be able to do it. Have you ever heard that? I'd love to take them, but I don't think I can keep it. People talk about that, don't they? I'm about doing nothing for them. We wish if I could do nothing every day, but I know I won't be able to maintain it more than a day. But I've come to the camp's wicked. When I go home, I know I ain't going to be able to do it. Or in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I know I'm going to fail. It's going to be too hard. This is real, isn't it? People have this kind of fear, huh? Because sometimes you want to do something that's challenging, you want to do something that's going to stretch you, that you need to develop for, that you need motivation for. But what happens is, if you've got low self-confidence, if you've got low self-belief, I'm going to fail. And do you know people are like that? No matter what it is in life, before they even start, they're like, I'm going to fail. You go, don't do this, oh, what's the point? I'm going to fail anyway. Oh, I can't get anything right. Have you met that kind of people in life sometimes? Where they're always down on themselves, always really sad. That's a horrible way to live, isn't it? You've got no self-belief, no confidence that you can actually do anything with your life, and no matter what you do is going to fail. Now maybe that's something happening in life that's made them feel that way, or it's the people that they're with. But that's not a good way to live your life. Where every time you touch something, you think, what's the point? I'm going to fail. So the fear of failure, like you said, you can see on the list, is quite high up. So a lot of people, as I said, the failure of feeling comes from self-esteem as well, self-belief. Our community as well, we have an issue with self-belief and self-esteem, especially some of the girls. Because the guys get away with it, because the guys can be a bit leery and a bit kind of jokey and stuff, right? With some of the girls, you don't know where your self-esteem comes from. You don't know you don't know the baseline of your character is. What makes me me? How does society view me? How do my parents view me? How do my friends view me? How do I view myself? What am I worth? Big questions, isn't it? Right, but if you don't have that low level of self-esteem, then what you do is, because you're afraid to fail, you go with anybody and everybody in terms of society's trends, people are doing this, because you don't want to be an outsider. You don't want to seem to be a failure. You don't meet society's expectations. So self-esteem is a big issue. We're not going to talk about too much now, but it's a big issue, especially in our community. The other one there now, being alone. Why is being alone scary?
Because when you're alone, and like because some people feel uncomfortable because they might be scared of a certain thing. Like for instance, for example, ghosts. They might get a bit scared and they've got no one to turn to.
Okay, so physically, if you're alone, you're no one to turn to, no help and support. What else? Someone else told me, why is being alone so scary? What is? Why is being alone so scary? Has anybody ever been alone? Anybody ever felt lonely? You don't put your hand up, just well, you can't come on, but I have. I'll come on. Everyone ever felt lonely? You don't put your hand up if you don't want to. Okay? Loneliness isn't just a physical thing. Sometimes people think, I'm alone if I'm not surrounded by 100 people. Do you think it's possible to be lonely in the middle of 100 people?
Yeah, because people can just like leave you out of it and just go to
People can leave you out of it. Again, we're talking about the physical here. It's not so much about I'm in the middle of 100 people, no one's talking to me.
You know, you might, yeah, you have friends with you that you feel like you won't be
understand you. They don't know where you're coming from, and you're afraid to speak out. So what happens? You get more and more lonely, yeah? I can't tell them what I'm feeling. I can't tell them what's going on in my head because they're going to judge me. They've got expectations. I'm meant to be like this, but actually I'm not like that. I'm someone else. I haven't got the confidence to speak up. So what happens? You shrink, and you shrink, and you get more and more lonely. Right? In the UK, right, loneliness is meant to do you more harm, right, than obesity. Loneliness is more dangerous to human beings than obesity is. When you're lonely, everything stops working. What's the point? Right? For people who are aged over 60 to 65, as I read this morning, right? Every month, there are 1 million people who haven't seen another human being for 4 weeks. So you're age 60, 65, so you've got kids, probably grandkids, great-grandkids as well. You've raised them, you know, you're doing all this kind of stuff, but then you go 4 weeks at a time without speaking to a single human being. Can you imagine that? 4 weeks. And we're not talking like going around to your friends and having a chat or something at all. So literally for 4 weeks you're sitting in your house, you don't leave your flat. The only company they have is TV. 4 weeks at a time. And that's the minimum. There are people who go for 6 months at a time without seeing anybody. No phone calls, no one. 6 months without speaking to anybody. That's scary. That is scary. Right? It's getting worse. Right, now let me show you something else. This is the phobias, right? Phobia. The biggest phobia, this is done by the NHS in the UK, the biggest phobia in the UK is fear of interacting with other people. The thing more people are nervous about in the UK than anything else is talking to other people. We as a society are living in a place where we're scared of talking to each other. It's quite shocking, isn't it? Anyway, let me go, so just go back a slide. So some interesting kind of fears there. Being alone, being a failure, some that possibly we can connect to as well. But you guys have got your own list of failures, own list of fears. And what affects us individually and affects us as a community, as a group. Okay, phobia, isn't it? The fears you might say are rational, you know, you can kind of get fears, there's a why, there's a what behind it. Phobias, they can get a bit more psychological help, I guess, because you don't understand why you're scared about these things. So let's look at this list. This is a UK list now. So fear of interacting with people, fear of open public spaces, fear of vomiting, fear of blushing, fear of driving, fear of illness, fear of flying, fear of speaking, fear of flying, fear of spiders, fear of animals, fear of confined spaces. So these are all things that people are nervous about. Now you know some of this list, can you guys kind of relate to some of these things? Right now, personally speaking, that's confined spaces one, yeah? And you're all going to laugh and say, there's no way Paul can get into a confined space. Right? Some of you are really cheap, you talk about open public spaces, right? But no, if I ever get myself in a small space, right, it can happen. On there, I'm not claustrophobic, but I get it. If I'm there like this and it's all tight and stuff, right, and I'm thinking, you know about 7 years old, you do that kind of thing where you jump out and you scare them and stuff, yeah? So you know if you're in a little cupboard or something, say a little cupboard, but you're in a big cupboard, right, and they're like this, and no shit, and I'm thinking, you know, she's going to come around any second and jump out and scare her. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what the door is open? I think you check him off and have a good battery. Got a reason, we're locked in. You know, what am I going to do in it? And I'm kind of listening, and I know the door's not open, I'm just checking. If they open the door early, there's going to be a surprise, what am I going to do? I get claustrophobic, I get it. Right? It's weird because nothing happens. Has anyone been caving? You guys been caving? Yeah? Okay, so when you cave in, right? You're not walking into a big cave like this, oh, this is a nice cave. You're kind of crawling around in it. Right? There's really tight spaces, right? Now, I've been caving. Again, it wasn't a big cave. I was a bit smaller than as well. Right? And you know what you kind of go along in? What's the worst thing you can do when you're caving?
Get to the small gap and then...
Yeah, you get to a small gap. And what's the worst thing you do when you get to a small gap?
Get stuck.
No, not get stuck. What's the worst thing that can happen in your mind? Sorry? How do you, because you're thinking, I'm going to get stuck. Or you're thinking, the rocks might fall. Right? So that happened when we were there. We were caving along, right? And there's this little kind of gap. You know, sometimes you get kind of like, sometimes you probably can't dig a bit when we're walking. And you just literally like this. And the wall there, it's pitch black, you know? Underground. Like this. Yeah, I'm kind of like, it's about 10 of us in the line. Right? The guy got the lights off in it. You're thinking, there's a torch. Just to see how dark it is, it's just like, we're walking around this. And suddenly, the guy in the middle, number 5, about 10 of us, went, get me out. Everyone's going, shut up. I need to get out. We all went, shut up. What happened? When he went, get me out, everyone else went, what, hang on, what's going on? Do you want to leave? Not only because, first of all, we've been claiming for half an hour now. So to get him out, the 5 guys before him are going to have to do this for half an hour to get out. Right? But the other thing is, when he starts going, listen, I'm getting stuck, I can hear the box moving, the box is going to fall. We're all going, shut up, because suddenly we can hear the box falling, and we're all thinking we're going to get stuck here. So panic spreads, and within 10 minutes, everyone's going, right? They ruined it. Okay? That's what commands, that's what happened. It wasn't real, there were no box moving. But he panicked, and everyone else panicked, and we can go back in. Right? But it happens all the time. Look at this, fear of vomiting. Right? And then we're doing this. You know, someone's already. What you do, you kind of go. And you kind of go get it all in and like, you close your eyes, it's like, then you smell it, hear it. Well, you all do that, look at this, you're basically imagining it. Right? Now, I genuinely don't think the fear of phobia of vomiting is that. I think it's probably a bit more deeper than that. But again, we can relate to the phobias, we can kind of get where they're coming from. Actually, the difficult one, the scariest one for me there is that top one there, interacting with other people. When you're so scared of actually going to talk to people, when someone comes to speak to you and you just get nervous. But there you go, that's phobia. And let me talk to you about fears. Actually, let me show you a slide there. Fear, what can you do? So fear can have an impact on your mind, your body, your behavior, your relationship, your confidence in your life. Okay, so no one's always afraid. When you guys are afraid, when I'm afraid, it's in our mind, isn't it? It affects our mind, yeah? So we can't think clearly, we're worried about stuff. It impacts our body. When you get big, people start shaking, start sweating. It has different chemicals that go through your body. Different chemicals, hormones, kind of move around your body when you're afraid, when you're feeling fear. Have you guys heard of fight or flight? It's adrenaline, isn't it? When you're afraid, you're going to stand there and face your fear, or you're going to run away. It's a chemical reaction. Behaviour. How do people who are afraid behave? You know, someone's scared of something. How do they behave? Sorry?
They kind of need someone to go with them everywhere.
Yeah, they kind of become a bit, can't really do anything with themselves and get stuck and stuff. And it's a bit difficult sometimes to explain, but you know what people who are afraid behave like, right? Is it fun to be around someone who's afraid?
Yeah.
No.
Not really. I don't know. I don't think it is. What do you think it is?
It can be sometimes because you can. No, because sometimes you can make a joke out of it, but then sometimes it's a bit harsh because you take it too far. Because then maybe they start crying and that.
Yeah, they probably will. If they're genuinely afraid of something, you take the mickey out of them. What happens is they're definitely not going to be around you. Right? So it's not nice to be around people who are afraid because their behaviour changes. They're not used to it. Yeah? Relationships, you think fear can impact relationships. Yeah? You can do it. Okay? So let me give you an example. Let's say my wife said to me, we've got to go shopping. I'm watching TV. She's going shopping, then I do my hair for 10 minutes. Fine. Come on, fine, get my clothes on. Get ready. And suddenly there's a dog outside the house. And she goes, we're not going. What do you mean? There's a dog outside. We're not going outside. How about you got me up? You made me get ready. That's what I'm going to say. Cut that. And then you go, we're not going to the dog outside. We're not going to the dog outside. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to sit down. I'll be yelling. I'm going to have to sit down. We're going to have an argument probably. Right, and who's going to win?
You will.
Right? It impacts your relationship because she's scared of the dog. She's not going to go now because the dog outside and I'm going to sit there. Right? Or we go somewhere and there's a dog. Why have we brought me to a place with dogs? It's a park. You get what I'm saying? It's a fear can impact your relationship. You're about confidence. You know, if you're fearful of something, you're not confident on it. Yeah, your confidence is going to be lower than you know, yeah? Right? Can't go here, that might happen. Can't do this, that might happen. Right? People are scared of the dark, they don't go out at night. And what's the ultimate impact your life? To bring your life up. Impact your life. To make you change the way you live your life. Now, let's see what happens when you have a fear. The reason we asked you guys to do the why and the what is because of this, man. Like, fear is something that might happen. Like, fear is something that could happen. So in your mind, you've got different bits of information. You've done a risk assessment in your head. This might happen, that could happen. But it's still something that might happen. It could do, but it may not. Let me give you an example. I read this and I thought it was a pretty funny example. Got a guy who's afraid of heights. So the worst thing that you can do to a guy who's afraid of heights is put him on a plane. That's harsh, isn't it? The guy's The guys are afraid of heights, that's pretty bad, yeah. The guy falls out of the plane. Now the next thing that happens is the guy falls out of the plane and he's flying through the air now, and he's thinking, I'm afraid of heights. He's probably not going to be, he's probably thinking a few other things as well, right? He's kind of going, whoa, that's pretty high, right? And the worst thing that can happen once you fall out of the plane and flying through the air is you can hit the ground, right? It's the worst that can happen. And he could go, let's leave death alone, right? Hits the ground. The worst that can happen if he hits the ground is, let's say, he breaks his back and his spine and everything is mangled up there. The worst thing that can happen is they take him to hospital. The doctor try to fix him up, but they can't fix him. The worst that can happen then is they put him in a wheelchair, he can't walk the rest of his life. Then the worst that can happen is his family leaves him, because he's not good for them anymore. The worst that can happen is he starves and he's living by himself. Right? That's a pretty sad story, isn't it? Okay. What have we done? We've gone from Mr. Smith is afraid of heights and we put him in a wheelchair, his family is left with him, he's crashed in the plane. All this has happened in split seconds. We've gone from someone who's afraid of heights to this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and we put him in a wheelchair. Right? All this could happen. That's what fear is, yeah? Fear is a projection force. So fear takes you from here, I'm afraid of this, and it puts you all over here when you kind of like, this could be, maybe, might be this. Boom. Let's take the story again. Mr. Smith's afraid of heights. He gets on a plane. That's the only fact. He gets on a plane. Right? The plane might never leave. The plane might never leave. You might say, sorry guys, bail him up here. No fuel. Get off. Doesn't happen all that often, but it could be, couldn't it? But the pilot's drunk. The pilot ain't turned up for work. Sorry guys. He gets off the plane. Now if that was a film, you know, to my Americans make this film, that'd be a rubbish film, wouldn't it? The guy gets on the plane, comes off rubbish film. We don't watch that film. But what else could happen? So the plane leaves off now. Right? It might happen that he doesn't fall out the plane. No problem. Let's say he falls out the plane. Falls out the plane, but he might not go off the air because his leg might get stuck in the door. Fall out the plane with his leg stuck in the door. Now it might sound silly, but it could happen, couldn't it? Let's say he genuinely falls out the plane, flying through the air. What might happen is James Bond might be on the plane. He might jump out after this guy, catch him in mid-air, have his parachute out, and then might kind of fly down to safety. It happens, isn't it? In the film. Right? But it could happen. It could happen. Or he's flying through the air and he lands in a tree. Or he lands in a barn with hay. That happens in the film as well, doesn't it? People land in barns, isn't it? He bounces off the hay, he walks off and he's chilling. Or he hits the ground and he breaks his back and stuff, and he goes to the doctor fixes his back, that's fine. Or they can't fix his back, and they put him in a wheelchair, but he becomes an Olympian, he becomes a gold-winning athlete in the Paralympics. That could happen, couldn't it? What we've done is we've taken a fear and we've done a negative projection. We've taken it, all the bad things that could happen at the back of the fear, we've done in a bad space. But at any one point, good thing could happen as well. So we're trying to explain to you, fear is might be, could be, etc., etc. They aren't things that you know, they aren't facts. We in our minds make them into facts. So we treat fear as real, but fear is just a projection. Different sources of fear. This is why I think fear comes from in our lives. Pain. Anyone ever been bitten by a dog? Do you like it? You don't like it? Did it? Well, I heard, sorry. You don't get bitten by another dog there. Not really, I hope not. Right? So pain, if you experience pain, you don't feel pain again. Prepare that pain again. Death. Here's an interesting one here. You know, we talk about fear as might be, could be, might happen, yeah? It's death that might be, or maybe.
It's definite.
What is it? It's a definite, yeah. It's a fact, isn't it? Death's a fact. It's not like that guy's going to jump out of a plane and he might do this, he might do that. Death is a fact. We all know one day we're going to die. We don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know where. What he does. He knows exactly where, he knows exactly what, he knows exactly how. We don't, but we know it's going to happen. So, let's go back a second. Right. When we're afraid, we feel all of these things. When? Today? Yeah? So if I'm afraid of something, that thing that I'm afraid of might happen next week, it might happen in a year's time. I'm afraid of all of these, I'm afraid of something that's going to happen next week. But the impact of the fear happens today, doesn't it? So if I've got an exam in a month's time, I'm working myself, I might fail this exam, I might fail the exam. When is it affecting my mind, my body, my behaviour, my relationship, my life? It's impacting me today. I'm so afraid that I'm ruining my life today for something that might not happen in a month's time. It may never happen. What am I going to do? I'm going to mess up my mind, I'm going to mess up my behaviour, I'm going to mess up my relationship by being afraid today. Does that make any sense at all? Or we really want want to ruin our lives today, rather than be happy and content with doing the things that we want to do today, so rather than do all of that, we're going to worry ourselves sick and put ourselves in a position for something that may never happen. Doesn't make any sense at all, does it? But that's what all of us do, myself included. We get ourselves worked up or worried about stuff that may never happen. And rather than do what we need to do today, we just simply worry about the future when it may never happen. So, death is a fact. Death is going to happen. So we've got to decide, do we treat death as a fact? We know it's going to happen, and we have a limited number of breaths. God has given us so many breaths in our life here. Let's say it's 1,000. Every breath we take is going down by one. Every day we live, that's one less day that we've got left in our life. So how are we going to live the rest of our life? Are we going to make every single breath count? Are we going to make every single day count? Because we know death is going to happen? Or do we just treat it as though it might happen? It could be, it might be one day. Okay. Interesting sort of think about ego. Okay. Anybody here got a job? Anybody here work? Okay. Right, boys. If I'm late for work, like sometimes when I go to work, I'm late for work, I'm afraid I might be late. I'm afraid my boss is going to do what? What my boss do if I'm late for work? Sack me. What's the worst that could happen if he sacks me? I can't provide food for my family, yeah? Right? My family stuff. Okay. I can't give them a house, can't pay the mortgage, can't do this, can't do that. This morning that surprisingly, right? Who provides food for us? Who's the one who gives us food? Who's the one who gives us shelter? Who's the one who gives us water? So why are we doing it? Why is the one who gives us all these things? Why do we provide everything that we need? Who's going to carry the actions? Who's going to have a job and the rest of it? It's not for us to worry about that. Might as well give, might as well provide. But I'm going to work and I'm late, I'm scared about being late. I'm scared that if I lose my job, I can't feed my kids. It's my ego speaking there. And I'm afraid because of my ego. Right? When we talk about doing bad things, right? Keep your hands up if you ever did something bad in your life. Right? Now, keep your hands up if you hate it for people to find out. Yeah? So we don't want to find out what bad things we do. Okay? Right. If people find out what hurt, ego, yeah? Ego is anything we find out about what we think we do. That ego is also karma with our actions. When we do stupid stuff, when we do misguided stuff, and we're afraid, that's because we've done. We've done stuff that we shouldn't be doing, and we're afraid people are going to find out. That's us, we've done that, so that causes fear. Again, is the lack of knowledge. We don't understand God, we don't understand why He's in charge of everything. And He look at it's what He said happens. We have limited control on that. Because we don't understand it, we get scared. And the fear of fear is probably the most annoying one. Have you ever been really afraid of something and you've actually had it happen and it wasn't that bad? So there's someone who does like, so there's a couple of girls who were scared of heights. They haven't said anything. And one of the girls talked to me yesterday, she's really, really scared of heights. Right? And she goes, she got to the top of the wood, she's petrified of heights. Actually, once she got down, she was fine. And then she did it again. But for years she'd been scared of heights. It was the fear of fear that was more scary than the actual thing itself. She worked herself into such a state that when she actually got it wasn't that bad. But initially, for years, she was petrified. Now, all those fears are wasted. We all have them, myself included, but they're wasted. They're just ruining our lives. But there is one fear that's a good fear, and that's this one called minimal fall. Fall means fear. What does minimal mean? Anybody know what minimal means? Really? Pure. Nirmal is pure, Nirmal is beautiful, Nirmal is soft. So it's beautiful, pure love, pure fear, sorry. You know the word fear at the start, we said the word fear is a bit of a rubbish word, yeah? It means too much enough. So every one of us means something different. We have about 8 definitions of it, different versions of what fear is. So the word fear is a rubbish word, I think. Right? So if we've got fall is the W version of it, but it means this loving fear of God. Now why is the fear of God different to the fear that we have for other things? What do you think the fear of God's like? Anybody tell me? How do you think the fear of God works? What kind of relationship is it? Out of respect. That's fear, and love, and respect. Anybody else? Okay. Can you imagine if you love someone so much when you want to be with them? Right? So you love God so much that all you want in your life is to be with them, and that's even going to be separated from Him. We will do anything it takes to become one with God because we love Him so much. And Maharaj is what we know is the most powerful. So whatever Maharaj says, we want to be able to start doing and do. this is the more goal, and this is how we overcome our other fears. We can talk about become fearless, give up something, you do this. You can learn about that stuff in your own time. What we're talking about here is how what does the body tell us, or what can we do with the body to become fearless. Morals says in the Quran, when the fear of God wells up, when the fear of God comes into our lives, other fears depart. Other fears are absorbed into that fear. When one rejects the fear of God, then the other fears come to that person. He becomes fearless, other fears happen away. Let me explain this. When the fear of God wells up, other fears will not. So if I'm driving along, right, and you see the camera flash, at 3 points on my license, I'm thinking, man, I'm going to lose my license here. Right? I'm afraid I'm going to lose my license. But suddenly I see a great big truck coming right at me like this. What am I most afraid of at that time?
Your life getting there.
My life, the big truck. I'm worried about 3 license points.
No.
So when we have these little fears that we had, these are small little fears. I've got them, you've got them, we've all got them. Mark says that when the fear of God comes in your life, these become insignificant. These become meaningless. Let me explain that. Okay. So me and this guy, right? Me and Jazzy, we hate each other. Right? We really hate each other. Right? But there's a boss at the top. Let's say, you know, like criminals, huh? Criminals always fight, don't they? Gangs and stuff, they always fight, yeah. So we in different gangs, we always in a fight. At the top there's a mafia man, the mafia boss. He runs everything, and we're all scared of him. Now, I'm scared of him, he's scared of me, we hate each other and stuff. But if the boss says to us, stop it, you're not fighting, are we going to argue? No, we're both scared of him. So I'm scared of him, he's scared of me, we're both scared of the one boss. So, is there any point in you being afraid of him? The boss says no, the boss says no. Same way, if Waheguru is that boss, Waheguru is the boss who commands everything, he's in charge of everything. If he says yes, he says yes. If he says no, it means no. So, there's a guy up there, it's a real story, there's a guy up there who wants to beat my headache. Genuine story. There's someone like he doesn't like me. Right? He wants to batter me. Now, if Marlon wants, if Waheguru wants him to be able to punch me, there's nothing I can do to stop it. If Waheguru doesn't want him to punch me, there's nothing he can do to make it happen, is there? Because Waheguru's in control. You got to let me say that again. If Marlon wants this guy to hit me, there's nothing I can do to stop it from happening. I can worry what I want, I can do whatever I want. If God said it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If God said it's not going to happen, there's nothing he can do to make it happen. It's in God's hands. So when the bigger fear comes in, when that fear for Waheguru, through that love comes in, these are the things that become anything. Let me show you the example. This shot comes in outside the God, in the morning food, and I have the choice. Look at the first few lines there. Look at the wind, the fire, the earth, the rivers, all of these will take work, action, out of fear of God. What that means is, Maharaj said to them, wind, blow, waters, run, fire, burn. Maharaj tells these things what to do. Right? The rivers can't say to themselves one day, let's go back up the opposite direction. The rivers are there because Maharaj put them there. Maharaj wants them to be there. So everything in the universe is under Maharaj's hands, is under Maharaj's control. Everything in the universe happens because Maharaj wants to happen. So when we're afraid of little things like fire, some people are scared of fire. But hang on, who's that fire afraid of? Maharaj. Who's the fire report to? Waheguru. Who's the fire work for? Waheguru. So suddenly we have that link with Maharaj, we have that link with Waheguru. Have we got anything to be afraid of fire? We're connected straight to the boss man. At the top of the pyramid. What if we don't be scared of it? Do we do so? This is how we all become our small fears by building that loving fear, the loving attachment with God. I'll give you an example. This guy here is a Bhai Inderjit. Right? Bhai Inderjit is a saint and not with the one to the Guru Sahib Maharaj. Bhai Inderjit is a challenge to around him. Right? Now, there were high caste Brahmins at the time. And the Brahmins have like a caste system. The Brahmins in the top, just because you're born in a Brahmin house, seems better than everybody else. Well, it would be just to challenge them. You say, how does that work? You say, just because you're a Brahmin, if you've got milk in your veins, and you've got blood in mine, what makes you better than me? Because you're a Brahmin, were you born in a different way from the way I was born? Because I'm a low caste. What makes you better than me? He said to Muslims, you believe that God exists in this Makkah, and we've got to pray that way because that's God's house, God exists just there. Where's all this? He goes, you guys are misguided, God exists everywhere. And he wasn't very much liked by these people. So what did they do? Try to torture him, try you think he was afraid? He wasn't afraid. Because he had this little bow, he had this true, loving, beautiful, loving fear of God. So what did they do? One story, they tied him up and they threw him in front of an elephant, and they ordered the elephant to crush him. Rather than crushing the elephant, what did they do? Who controls the elephant? Why would they thought we're going to crush him with an elephant. Why would we control the elephant? What elephant must take to birth to Gizzi? And this shot, this comes from Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj. Why would Gizzi, they tied him with metal chains, they threw him into a river. Drowned him. The waters broke the metal chains, and he came to the top floating on a deerskin. Why? Because the water works for God, the metal chains work for God, the whole universe works for God. And when these people, when these Brahmanis, when these Gurmukhs become one with Vaheguru, what's the difference? When you become one with Vaheguru, what's the difference? If these things are working with Vaheguru, guess what? They're working for you as well. So what have you got to be afraid of? What is beautiful quality here? Man na dege, tad kahe ko darai. Man na dege, my mind hasn't fallen. Why should my body be afraid? My mind is still connected with Vaheguru, it cares after my body. And he was saved. And this is straight from the Granth Sahib Maharaj. So when we talk about how to overcome our fears, Maharaj tells us in the Gurbani how to overcome these fears. And what do we need to do? We need to do the simple stuff. We need to do something because all we know. So I'm not telling you anything new here. Stuff like Seva, doing Simran, reading the Gurbani. Now, for just a second, imagine in your heads now, think for a second what your worst fear is. Think about just 10 seconds to yourself. What is the biggest fear you have in your life? It's been that scares you more than anything else. Now imagine, right, bring that to the front of your mind. Imagine someone could pick that fear up and just get rid of it. Take that fear out of your life and just dispose of it. Imagine how happy that made you feel. You just get rid of that fear. And imagine that person was sitting on that chair. How nice you'd be to that person. How would you treat that person that could get you rid of the worst fear in your life? The pain that you suffer from this fear. How nice you said to the person. How would you greet them? How would you meet them? And if I'm saying to you that the Gurbani is telling us the cure to fear is by building this loving fear for Vaheguru, and the person with that cure is Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj is there, we can ask ourselves, how would we treat Maharaj? How would we treat one person who could cure one of our fears? How nice would be to them? Versus how nice we are to Maharaj, how do we treat Maharaj? What's the God respect we have for Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj? And Maharaj is saying to you, I'll give rid of all your fears. Or having this one fear for Vaheguru, all your fears disappear. Here's the picture of Amar Das Maharaj. In Guru Das Maharaj was great Guru. The story where Guru Amar Das was walking alongside the second Guru. And the time when Guru Amar Das' hand went in front and the second Guru like that, when he walked into the Nyan, Maharaj dropped his hand up and put his hand back. He wouldn't use it. And the second Guru Sahib said, why have you done that with your hand? Guru Amar Das, he said, Maharaj, my hand went in front of you. How dare my hand do that? You're my Guru. Today Maharaj is my hand, tomorrow not be my mind. My mind doesn't really give what to do. My mind knows what to do. Because Maharaj, my hand is dead to me. This is loving fear of God. That respect, that awe. Like your parents, you respect your parents, like you love your parents. You don't fear your parents like say, when I was in that cave like this. It's not like your mum walks into the house and you go, oh, you don't have that kind of fear. It's a special loving kind of respect, awe, reverence. That word reverence we talk about at the start. It's that kind of fear. And Guru Amar Das Maharaj had this. Talk about revolution. Talk about the fearless ones. Because revolution talks about, again, it's globally, it's about God, it is about governments, it is about oppression, and overturning that, and the cartel created to do that kind of thing, fight for justice. But the revolution is also a spiritual one. At the moment, like we said, we want to become one with God, and that means changing who we are and the way we think. Not to change you as a person, I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say we need to better ourselves. So that at the moment our minds are focused on God, on God. We're obsessed with lust and ego and greed and attachment and these kind of things. Maharaj is bringing us a revolution to free us of that, to break us of that. So this is the oppression your mind is currently under. You're slaves to these desires. I'll break you free. And once we've done that, then we become free. And when we do that, we become like people like Bhai Inderjit Singh, with Maharaj's get bonus. And look at Bhai Inderjit Singh's revolution wasn't where we took a gun or a sword and a shield and a mace to a battlefield. So Bhai Inderjit Singh's revolution, his revolutionary action was to stand. All he had to do was stand. Bhai Inderjit Singh was told by the Mughals, give up your faith, give up your Sikhi, and you can have life. Try to bribe him with all sorts. Give up your Sikhi and have life. And they threatened him with violence. They threatened to have him chopped, sawn in half. And you know who said we talk about pain being a source of fear. So everybody knows that when you chop wood, for example, with a saw, it's not like cutting butter, is it? You cut butter and just go with that, doesn't it? You cut through wood, it takes a while, doesn't it, first of all? The splinters coming off. Sometimes, if you don't know what you're doing, the saw might come out and you've got to saw it out again. It's not a straight line. It's not easy, is it? So we can understand how wood gets cut. When they said to my Bhaktidas, we're going to saw you in half. In his mind, he would have understood what that meant. It's not quick death. They're going to saw him in half. But Bhaktidas' revolution was saying no. But Bhaktidas' revolution was saying, you know what, you can take your fear, it means nothing to me. You've taken your most powerful weapon, fear. You've taken your most powerful weapon, you're trying to frighten me to give my Sikhi. My love of Bible, my loving for Bible is greater than your fear. My fear of death is less powerful than my fear of Bible. So I will not change my faith. All Bhai Inderjit did was stand, and he created a revolution because he showed the world that the love of God is greater than the fear of death. He showed us today what we can achieve and how we can become fearless, what being fearless can give you. Bhai Inderjit stood and they sawed him in half. The Saints in 1984 and the Senior in 1984, they knew what revolution was. They knew what the love of God was. They had families and children, just like what we have. Some of their kids were our age. We talk about fear. Fear is often what impacts us. Faji in one of the early classes, sorry, not in this one. Talk about his fear was for his family. When these guys had little kids, I know of one Shaheed Singh, he had 2 little daughters. And when someone said to him, why are you leaving your house to go fight for freedom? Why are you leaving your house to go struggle for justice? Why are you a revolutionary? You've got daughters of your own. His response was, today, there are many of the daughters being raped out there. Today it's someone else's daughter, tomorrow it's going to be mine. Today it's someone else's daughter, tomorrow it's going to be mine. I've got to do the righteous thing today. I know this family. You'll have met some of the Shaheeds yourselves. You know the sacrifices they made. Now look at the fear. Your 2 young girls. Your fear is, if I die, no one's going to look after my family. If I die, no one's going to marry more daughters. Who's going to feed them? Who's going to look after them? That's fear. But yet, his love of God and his love and the loving respect of God is greater than his fear. That one fear is greater than all the smaller ones. Now, the Shaheed Singhs that did this Qurbaniyan, they didn't do them so who could look after their kids. That's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to look after their families and look after the kids. So stuff like the Khalsa Aid, and so we do all these things that these guys are doing, great stuff, that's our responsibility. But the Singhs and Singhiyas that went to battle, they did not do it so that we would do that. They didn't go in thinking, oh, we'll do this, because I'm sure these guys here will look after my family. They went in with a faith and devotion, knowing that God is in charge. When we talk about revolution, when we talk about fear, it's a steep incline, it's difficult. But Mara tells us that fear and love of God can overcome any other fear that we have. The final bit, final 2 minutes. Let's talk about Maharaj. We talk about revolutionaries, the fear of God, the more powerful than the fear of God. I'm just like you guys, I'm afraid of so many things, but this is the top, this is gold standard, Maharaj. Maharaj is everything. Imagine 4 sons. You know Punjabi culture, someone's got 4 munde. You know what the 4 sons he's got. Imagine 4 sons as brilliant, as brave, courageous, smart as they said, you go because he had 4 sons, get it all. He's an emperor, he's a king. Yeah, he's a king. And yet, here we go, this man is lying down in a jungle in the month of December. All 4 of his sons are shaheed, are dead martyrs. His feet are bleeding because he ain't got no shoes on his feet. Bones cutting into his feet, stones cutting into his feet. His clothes are shredded. He's a king with 4 sons with an empire, and now he goes to the martyrs lying on the freezing cold December floor in the jungle by himself, nobody with him. Look at the fears we talked about. Imagine all your fears brought into one place of one individual, and then we have Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj experiencing what we would call fear. And what does Maharaj do lying there? Maharaj says to the winds, "Don't tell my beloved that without him I have nothing. Tell my beloved that even if I have all these palaces, all this gold, all these jewels and stuff, without him it would be like poison." So what we fear more than anything else in life was happening to Maharaj. All happened to Maharaj at one place, and he's there, and what does he do? Rather than say, I can't believe I lost my kids, I can't believe I lost all this, he says, tell my beloved that without him I've lost everything. Look at the love that we can develop for God. Look at this shout, last 4 lines now to the running. Maharaj said, there, Shiva par moye hai. The Maharaj gave me this blue. Shubh karma take a hunna. Pure actions, the true actions. Man never refrain from them, man never stop. Now sometimes we have to make a decision, right or wrong. And we make the wrong decision because it means less pain, less headache. Maharaj said, man never stop from making the right decision, the righteous choice. Not only, is to kind of pause and think. Maharaj said, may we never ever pause. Whenever there's a righteous choice, may I always make that choice. These are the words of a revolution. These are the words of someone who's fearless. May I never stop from making the righteous choice. Then Maharaj says, ना डरो और सोच बचाने डरो मैं stay कर अपनी जीत करो ना डरो मैं be fearless मैं have no fear और सिर्फ मैं stay कर अपनी जीत करो when I go to battle when I go to fight may I have full faith in my victory may I have full belief in victory without fear. So when Maharaj is going to battle, when Maharaj is going to any kind of battle, victory is already his. Why? Because Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. If the Khalsa belongs to Vaheguru, the victory belongs to Vaheguru as well. So no matter what happens, Guru Gobind Singh is victorious. Because he belongs to God. And the victory is always God's. Why? Because it's only what God wants to happen is going to happen. So how can God ever refuse? How can God ever fail? So when you become one with God, when you're into Atma, you become one with God, when you become one with the Guru, and there's no difference between man and God, then how can you have anything other than victory? This is what Guru Gobind Singh's revolutionary words are. These are the words of someone who is fearless. Not words of me, words of the fearless Guru Gobind Singh. I'll say, go up on the Iman ko, Ehe Lal is home, Guru Tawajjah. But my Sikhs, the only desire, the only want they have, is sing your praises. Again, the words of a revolutionary. What do we want? We want everything. We want everything. Guru Gobind Singh goes, I want nothing else to sing your praises. Nothing else. I don't want a salary, I don't want money, I don't want wealth, kingdom. I just want to sing your praises. The words of a revolutionary. And the final line. When the time comes for this life to end, at the heat and the neck of a Juju, may I die fighting in battle, victoriously, bravely. What that means is not only the physical battlefield that Maharaj has and fought battles in, wars in, but it also means the spiritual battlefield that we all face daily. And what do I mean by that? You know, sometimes we say, I'm an angry person. Nothing I can do about it. I'm also a person who looks at girls, what can I do? I've tried to stop, can't do anything about it. I've tried to keep my case, can't do it. I've tried to give a shit up, can't do it. Too hard. No. That's not what Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is about. Maharaj says, when this life comes to an end, even at the very last moment, after hearing a method of Juju, may even not end at the very last second, start fighting a battle against the enemy and also against our very minds, against the lust, the ego, the greed, attachment that's in our hearts. Even at the very end, may I start fighting against that. May I never give up. So when we start giving up in Sikhi, I can't do it too hard. I don't have to take on it. I think I might fail. That's not the Sikhi Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. Maharaj says, not alone, our soldier Vijay alone is taken up with it, may I always have victory. So we're going to ask ourselves this question. When we talk about fear of things that we're afraid of, when the righteous things are in front of us, the right things there, and we're afraid of doing it, we're going to ask ourselves why. Is it because we're afraid of small things, or is it because we haven't got that link with Maharaj? We want to get this greater fear of Maharaj, loving fear of Maharaj, Seva, surrender, peace, and all these things are there, and this is how we become fearless. You know, you see on Instagram, you've seen these kind of guys. Some of you might have it in politics you have, in their phone, their bed, tattoos on Instagram, they're standing like this, going, their phone, their bed, they're like, I am fearless, I have no enemies. That's not quality for us. Their phone, their bed, without fear, without enemies, in front of Maharaj, Vaheguru. If you become one with Vaheguru in this life, if you obtain that oneness with God, then you can say their phone, their bed. When you've done it, you won't want to say it. Like the one where some of us kind of go, I've got no enemies, I'm fearless, like this. That ain't us. And we don't mean it in a bad way, but sometimes we're taking the body, it's beautiful, the body is beautiful, poetic, and we try to apply it to ourselves. It's misjudged, it's not really what the body is trying to say. The body is trying to say, why do we live forward with this? But we need to be forward Maharaj, we need to have that loving fear of Maharaj before we can become fearless. Okay? So I'm going to leave it there. That's the one guys to go away. Think about ways that impact your life. And rather than live our life constantly in fear, let's do what we need to do today. Let's do our Sikhi today. Let's come our Sikhi today. We live in fear, that fear may never happen. I'm afraid of many things you guys are listening, talking down to you. Collectively, we can't build this fearless global Maharaj, we can't take the body. So, Senate being on, please, say, Bhai Inderjit Singh.